Welcome to the West Sports Show. Today, fans wild about the Wildcard round and the Eagles and Harley Reid back at training. Welcome to the West Sports Show, Spring Edition. And I'm joined by Craig O'Donoghue, fresh from a trip to the best of Melbourne spring. How are you, Cod?
It was bloody freezing. It was so cold and it was so wet. It was 8 degrees in November.
Now, you're a Melbourne boy like me, and you're a fierce defender of our great home state, right?
Yeah.
But you do notice it when you've been living over here for a while.
Just ridiculous. I'll never forget the day Teddy Whitten did his lap of honour at the MCG. I wasn't there. I was umpiring a game out at Ivanhoe football ground, and my hands were blue. It was that cold. And my hands were blue again the other day. So it was just ridiculous.
Well, let's get into the AFLW in a little while, Cod. I just want to open, so big couple of days of news in the AFL. Let's open with the Wildcard.
Yes.
What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are I'm prepared to wait and see what it looks like next season, because right now I don't really care either way. I can see how it can be good, and I can see how it can be an absolute disaster. So I don't think it was necessary, but it might become really cool when we actually see it in place. What are your thoughts?
Well, it was necessary because, let's be honest, we are employed by Seven West Media, and it's good for the broadcasters. So there's an extra 2 games. I guess it maintains an interest from between that block from, say, 11 down to 13. They're the good things about it. I've always been a big one for not rewarding mediocrity.
Yep.
So now you finish in this bottom half of the draw and you're going to be able to play finals, and that's another thing. So 7 plays 10, 8 plays 9. The years of the Western Bulldog doing what they do is now going to become even harder.
Yes.
Because you've got to, there's another week of lead up. So I'm just not sure. I'm not a fan. I'll put that on the table. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. I knew it was coming, so I was expecting it. I'm also prepared just to sit and wait and see what it looks like. But just initially, I don't think it's necessary. We have a wildcard system as it is with the top 8.
Yeah, and the way that Fremantle have missed the 8 last year and made the 8 this year was effectively a wildcard game. It was a one-off match in the last round. If you win, you're in. If you lose, you're out. And that was so exciting. So that would change the entire context of things. What I did find interesting was if you look at what this year would have done to Fremantle in the last game, what they would have been playing for instead of playing for a spot in the finals. And there is still a fair bit on the line for the position they would have been playing for. So win, like they did this year, they finished 6th, week off and home final. Lose, they would have finished 9th and played in a wildcard game, but it would have meant they wouldn't have had a week off at all throughout the finals. They would have had to go into Melbourne for round 24, then go back to Melbourne for a wildcard game. If they won that, they would have had to go to Sydney for elimination final, and then to Adelaide, and then to Geelong, and then to Melbourne back for the grand final if they won all their way through. So it'd be pretty much impossible for them if they lost that game to the Bulldogs to win the flag. Too hard a road to follow, as you just mentioned there. Whereas if we're going, this game means a hell of a lot because we know they're going to be playing as part of the top 10, but they don't want to be in 7, 8, 9, 10. They have to finish 6th. That will be the talk around at that point of the season. So I think there'll be still the overall incentive late to just avoid having to play wildcard because you need the rest.
I reckon as it stands, you're a sneak. Even though it's a long shot, finish 7th or 8th in the current top 8.
Yeah.
You're a sneaky chance to push your way through if everything goes your way. I just think with this new system, you're no chance. I mean, eventually history will prove me wrong. Someone will do it down the track, but it's going to be very, very hard. Now, interesting, Cod, all the clubs were in favour of it. Fremantle was talking about this mid-season, but with a different twist.
Yeah, so I asked Simon Garlick about this before they played Collingwood. So that was a point of the year where they were under mega pump, if you remember. Like they had to keep winning to have any chance of playing finals. I said, where do you sit on the wild card? And he said, love the concept. Think it's important from an entertainment industry perspective that we have it. And he said, and he believes that it should be in one location. So you could say it's coming to Perth in 2026. It's coming to Brisbane in 2028. You know, it's going to be in Melbourne in 1 year. It's going to be in Sydney. Find a location and say this year wildcard round is in this location.
And you're saying moving it around?
Move it around. Yep. So you could say.
So you could have 7B playing 10. and 10th is hosting. You could have that.
You could actually have it. Yeah, so both games in the one location. Everyone knows where it is before the season begins. I would argue it should always be outside of Victoria because the grand final's in Victoria.
Agree.
And as I mentioned before, that if you're having to travel all the time, it's very different 7v8 being Richmond versus the Western Bulldogs where both teams stay at home versus Hawthorn v Fremantle and the Dockers have to travel away or vice versa. So having the necessity for the Victorian teams to travel so that the advantage they get on grand final day isn't there at the start of the wildcard system, I think that will actually work. Whether people would be prepared to travel in the first week of September for a big tournament without knowing that their team was in advance, that would be an interesting thing.
If you are going to go the journey as one of the teams that finishes down there, gee, it's a lot of money you're going to fork out as a non-Victorian fan to go and watch your team.
Absolutely it is. And we know that the prices will be jacked up massively. So one of the things I reckon is also interesting is fixture reform is coming. Like they have to fix the fixture.
Yep.
And that will be coming out on Thursday. And everyone will be looking at who you play twice is massive. And if we have a look at this year's fixture, and this is why I think there's a good reason for wildcard to come in. If you looked at what every single team was positioned on the ladder after they played each team once. So we know that Fremantle played Brisbane late in the season, and they played other teams twice at that point. But just look at the first time every single team played each other. Collingwood would have finished on top instead of fourth. Geelong still would have finished second. Brisbane still would have finished third. Adelaide would have dropped from first to fourth. Gold Coast would have finished fifth instead of finishing seventh. Hawthorn would have jumped from eighth to sixth. GWS would have gone from 5th to 7th, and Fremantle would have gone from 6th to 8th. So you can see a difference in that. Sydney, who finished 10th, would have dropped all the way out of that top 10, wouldn't have been part of the wildcard system, and Port Adelaide would have jumped in, having finished 13th, they would have gone into 10th spot. So who you play twice impacts your ability to win games and your percentage. So when we know that the draw is uneven and unfair, having a wild card will help to make up for those little things if you were just going to miss out on the finals because you played a couple of teams that are really hard and another team got North Melbourne and West Coast twice in one season when they were down the bottom of the ladder.
I ask you this purely as an Essendon fan, which you are a strong rusted-on Essendon fan. Should it be a finals win in this wildcard game?
I don't think it should, but other sports...
So therefore, if it is a win, then it's a top 10. Let's just call it what it is.
The AFL have said it is considered a final, so it will be considered a final. It's not a home and away game, so technically it has to be considered a final because you're playing for something. So they've already. It doesn't matter what I think; they're calling it a final.
You're playing. Still, everyone wants to finish top 4.
Yeah,
but you're playing for the 10 now. You're not playing for the 8.
Yeah, and the flow of it is really interesting. Like when you look at the NBA, it's different. Their play-in tournament works because they're a best of 7 final series and you're playing a one-off game to get in. So that makes that play-in game massive, right? Whereas we lose the flow of it all because we're accustomed to first week of finals is elimination to stay alive and qualifying to get into the prelim.
I'm still remembering the top 5, God, which I loved.
It was a great system. You had elimination qualifying as well. Now
Great
we've got
system.
Elimination finals in wildcard plus elimination finals in the first week. So I worry about that element of it. We don't have the same sort of flow. So, but we just need to see what it looks like. What we do know is top 6 came in 1991 and everyone bagged it. And the top 8 came in 1994 and everyone bagged it. There were when the top 8 came in, there were 53% of teams made the 8 because there are only 15 teams in the comp. There'll be 55% of teams making the top 10. So it's a similar number and people will adjust. And in terms of the mediocrity side of things, in 2025, the team that finished 10th went 12 and 11. So they won enough games to get in. Last year, they went 12-10 and a draw. So the years before that in 23, 22 and 21, they didn't go beyond 50%. But, I mean, we're going to see, will it make the game more interesting later on in the season? You would hope so. I wonder whether or not we're going to see Fremantle and West Coast. I mentioned before about that travelling in the last round. Does the Derby need to be played in the last round of the season to keep our teams at home so that if they then have to do the big run of being on the road that entire time...
They've at least got that week at home.
Guaranteed at
possibly.
home.
Possibly.
Because we know that Fremantle played... The way it is now with the 23 rounds, it's you play the first game... If you're away in the first game, you're away in the last game. So West Coast this year, in 2026, will be away first round, away last round. Fremantle will be home. But the year after that, it'll flip back the other way again. So would we be in a position where the two clubs would like to play each other in that last round so they can enter the entire final series if they're wild carding? without having to be away the week before? Or would they say, bugger that, like, oh, we don't want to play each other in the last one. What if we're both playing to get into that 10? It'll be too intense. So that will be really interesting to see how it works.
One final point. So there's been an overwhelming lack of support from fans so far in the 24, 48 hours since. It was a good column by Georgie Parker, I thought. Perhaps just terms like wildcard. It's too American. Do you think people just don't like the Americanisation of our sport? Because should we come up with another term?
I think it'd be hard to come up with a really cool term. Like gather round, I thought was stupid when it was named.
So did I, and I love it now.
I love it now. So you got to come up with the right sort of term to make it really easy for people to understand wildcard. I just think the public just hate any change at all. Like,
we've had a bit in this last couple of months.
We have. But everyone went, leave the game alone when they changed the rules. And then people went, oh, I actually don't mind that one. Oh, I don't mind that one.
Yeah.
Oh, but leave the game alone. So we have to have change at some point.
It just seems to have been a lot heaped upon fans in a short space of time, and they're finding it difficult to comprehend.
It's really important next year that the wildcard system has something where you feel like it matters leading into it. It can't just be, that the top 10 is known a couple of weeks out and then the last round doesn't mean as much. The last round has to still be absolutely rollicking to absolutely mean something, whether it's to miss out on the wild card and get into that top 6 or to make the wild card in 11th and 10th are battling out. It can't be known that top 10. It has to be up for grabs because that's crucial for the success of it.
And do you think now that there's this, so the top 6 teams will get that first week rest?
Yep.
Is this the end of any thought of a pre-grand finals bye?
Yeah, I would have thought so.
Yeah, that's a shame. I'm big on that. That's a shame if that's the case.
I worry about the grand final bye if we're going week off for the top team for wildcard, win the next week, then week off again. If you then had another week off before the grand final, they'd have barely played any footy. So my only concern, my concern with everything is 1 and 2 deserve the advantage. They deserve every advantage in the book. And now we're giving 6 a week off as part of that rest. So you do get a lot of rest for the entire, just for making the top 6. But as I said, I can see also that with the way the fixture is set up, with the advantages that some teams get by where they live or by who they play, it's not always going to be even and you don't necessarily earn your way into the top massively more than other teams who have done different yards.
Now, back training, I can't believe I'm saying this. Eagles were back at training yesterday. Dockers will be a few weeks away, hence the fact that they made finals. And before we get into the actual on-field stuff, Don Pyke got up and spoke about a new sponsorship agreement with Allianz. And he was asked about are they still considering trading pick 2 perhaps? They've got pick 1, 2 and 13. And he said it would take an incredible offer. So for me, it looks very unlikely they're looking at they'll keep 1 and 2, which we assume will go to Willem Dersma and Cooper Duff-Tytler. But 13, he seemed to think that might still net a good player, but 13 surely would still be up for grabs with the right deal.
I don't think 13's going to be chased by anyone because 13's going to become 18-ish.
So there's three clubs with 2. So Essendon, Richmond, Melbourne have 2 picks inside the top 10. So if any deal was going to get done, it would have to involve one of those 3 clubs.
Correct. So I think we're all assuming that picks 3, 4 and 5 will be academy players, right? So that means Richmond's pushes back from number 3 to number 6. So would you take pick 6 and 7 for pick 2? What do you reckon?
I'm not.
So therefore you're not taking
I'm going to go with 1 and 2, the 2 best available, because I think they've worked hard in recent years to shore up that middle list difficulty they had. So they've got the players with some experience in there. I think this is about real elite top-end talent, and then let's have a look what's further back.
Yeah,
we get a bit more experience in a further back.
Yeah, I think if 3 and 4 were genuinely 3 and 4 and not going to get pushed back by the academy picks, and Richmond came along and said, we'll give you 3 and 4 for 2, you take that deal. But I don't see any reason at all for them to take later than that. They know what they get then. They can turn around and go, those 2 blokes you mentioned, Duff-Tytler and Dersma, just land in their pockets. They don't have to worry about anyone else taking them. Whereas you're then going, who do they pick? What's going to end up there? What if something else happens here? Then you got to make a lot of decisions then. So pick the best 2 kids you can get and then go and get that 13 and turn that into something, and they'll try to trade out 34 and 41 to get higher. They could use those 34 and 41s.
So other clubs who probably need the
draft points,
will want those. So They should be able to advance themselves there, I think.
And there is a bit of news today. Also, it's been reported that Finlay Macrae from Collingwood and Devon Robertson from Brisbane will join the Eagles as rookies under this new...
Well, they get 4 a year across 3 years.
Yeah, so they've got more players. So Finlay Macrae is 23 years old, has played 21 games, none this year. Picked 19 in 2020, not quick, which was one of the reasons why he struggled to get a game for the Pies. And Dev Robertson, 24 years old, 47 games for Brisbane, 4 this year, 2 last year. He was picked 22 in 2019. And the interesting thing there is, so picked 19 in 2020 for Finlay Macrae, picked 22 for 2019 for Dev Robertson. There's no players on West Coast list who were drafted from who they drafted in 2019 or 2020. They missed out on all them altogether. That's part of the Tim Kelly trade. And if you look out at their list with players aged 23 to 26, Macrae's 23, Robertson's 24, they've only got Jack Hutchinson, Harry Edwards, Tom McCarthy, and Bailey Williams, with Brandon Starcevich coming in this year, who's 26 at the moment as well. And Tyler Young's just turned 27 from Richmond. So they need to bolster that group of players. So they're in the right age bracket. They'll give some more maturity. They're not going to be world winners or anything like that, but they will give them some more depth and leadership and of what is a very,
which is
very
why I
young
think
group.
it's so important to get 1 and 2 right.
Yeah,
and with that elite early talent. So it was the return to training yesterday, an aerobic beep test, which I'll let you explain. It was for first to fourth year players, but you always see some experienced players come into the mix. So Liam Duggan, Jake Waterman, Elliot Yeo, good to see him out there early. Jamie Cripps and Bailey Williams. Harry Edwards and Matt Owies were out there. Bailey, who could well be really well aided by this new ruck rule coming in. But of course, Harley Reid was out there, of course, and a little bit of a scare early.
Yeah, so the test they were doing, I saw it for the first time last year, so I'm still trying to get my head around it.
How does it?
A little bit. It reminds me of the beep test.
Yeah.
You don't stop. So in the beep test, you run up and back. And when the beep test starts, you're basically walking. Like, it is so slow. And then it builds and it gets quicker every minute in the beep test. I think it works out. So you increase your speed by a quarter of a second.
It was horrific. I hated it.
And you get to about level 8 and you go, okay, now we're running. And then you get level 10. It suddenly feels like, oh, now we're going really quick. And then my best was level 14. Managed to just sneak over the line. I was normally a level 13, mid-level 13 sort of person. But this looked like it was, you started at 12 kilometres an hour, which is 5-minute Ks. So they're not moving that quick at that point. Then
quick enough.
Every 2 minutes, these are elite athletes, they're not us. Yeah. Every 2 minutes, it kicked up again. So it went from 5-minute Ks to 4:36K to 4:17 to 4 minutes to 3:45 to 3:30. So that's 12 kilometres an hour, 13 kilometres an hour, 14 kilometres an hour. You're going up by 1 kilometre an hour each time. So when Harley pulled out, they were going at 17 kilometres an hour, which is 3:30. So he'd been running for around 12 to 13 minutes. So I didn't look at it and go, he's going to cramp there. It was 24 degrees. So it was weird how he stopped, and he stopped right in front of the fitness guy. So he was having problems with it. He started limping. He grabbed his calf. He was clearly expressing some concern. Then he went and had some treatment with it, and then he came back later on. So I wonder, was it the grass that he was running on? You know when you start training on one venue, they've been training at McGillivray Oval throughout the preseason. It's a lot harder surface. Maybe the change to a softer grass had impacted him a little bit. So there's potential that caused him some problems. Maybe he just had it in his head from last year that he's had all these injuries and he felt something minor and went, I'm going to ping something and pull himself
footwear?
out. Could have been footwear. Could have been anything, really. Yeah. The Eagles kicked us out from training after 20 minutes, which was planned. They told us you can stay for 20 minutes and that's it. We could see through the fence for a little bit of him doing some light kicking. They told us he was still training, but we just couldn't see him training anywhere. Like, you saw everyone disappearing up and down the ground at different points through the gate or through the side of the fence. Couldn't see him. So I don't know what else he was doing the entire time, but I spoke to him the previous week on the Thursday out at Scarborough for a Revo fitness thing. Looked phenomenal. When he took his T-shirt off to put the Revo top on, he looked cut, lean, ripped, all that sort of stuff. Looked in great nick. Had talked up how much endurance work he'd done. This test is about endurance. He's not a great endurance athlete, so he would have much preferred some speed stuff. There'll be a watch on him from here to see, is his calf okay? Was it just a day one occurrence?
Fortunately, it's November, so they can get ahead of all of this.
You just don't want him to have the injury problems he had last preseason, and you just hope that was a scare rather than something that is just niggling away at him and will continue to hassle him for the rest of the preseason.
And how did Elliot look?
Elliott looked like he was just doing basic work. So
Yeah, of course.
All of the other experienced guys were doing, which was not much. Like they were doing run-throughs. They were just doing.
But it's just good to see him out there for day one of the first to 4
Yeah,
years.
really important for him to be out there as well. I thought as well, come back early, get yourself right, meet the new fitness guy. They need leaders out there, let's face it. So the guys who come back for the start of preseason before they're meant to are important, but they don't do anything hard because the last thing you want to do is actually hurt yourself.
Expect him to go to halfback. That's what I'm calling
reckon?
next
Yeah,
year. I think it makes sense to me. He's
goes.
missed a bit of footy, has won an All-Australian there. I think it'll take a little bit of pressure off him. Just thrusting him back into the midfield will be too much, I think, at this point. And there are other players they want to push further upfield. McCarthy would be one of them. So I think it makes sense to me for him to go back.
Good overhead too. Like can really intercept mark.
Yeah, I think he'd be more comfortable doing that, just at least initially. So that's what I would expect to happen. God, it's time to do an AFLW update. This AFLW update is brought to you by Woodside Energy, a proud major partner of the Fremantle Dockers, supporting local footy from grassroots to greatness. Well, unfortunately, the season's over now for both of our teams. West Coast unable to get it done. 31-point loss to Carlton.
41-point loss?
Sorry, 41-point loss to Carlton. And it was horrific conditions. Heralded by the banner when they ran out, looked like Fright Night. It was just barely clinging together.
Yeah, they did the traditional put the banner up to show the crowd, and that was a bad decision.
I had to check whether it was Halloween. It looked really creepy, this banner.
Yeah, they put the banner up both clubs put their banner up to show the crowd what was on there, and the wind just howled straight through West Coast, and they like get the thing down, and it was just bucking down in the rain. So once there were a couple of holes in it and the rain was coming down, it just was like, please hold on for them. But there was a bit like them in the game as well. Like they were trying to hold on, and then in the third quarter it just became just too much for them. It was an avalanche. Carlton won the disposal 79-47. The contested possessions are won 32-23. The clearance is 13-3, and the inside 50 is 13-6. And they kicked 6 goals, 2-1 behind. I thought even early in the game it looked like Carlton were cleaner and stronger. There were lots of moments in that first quarter where you go, West Coast have a chance here, and then Ella Roberts drops an overhead mark, or Gibson has a shot which just dribbles across the face of goal, or they don't handle it properly. And there are all these little things where it was half chances that just didn't go their way. Carlton gathered the ball well, got the handball out, put someone in space, took marks when they needed to take marks, kicked the goals when they needed to kick goals. So it was just little things like that where they were just more experienced, they were just better.
To me, it felt like a really important year, though, for West Coast, because they're a young team, and I think the generally young team, Dana Hooker, well done to her. She's now officially retired. Great career that she's had. But it just felt like time. They get to play a final. They get to play probably 3 finals, really, because the lead-up were really much like finals. Players like Jess Ranch has really come on. So I felt like it's a step being taken forward. But clearly next year's going to be tough because the draw's going to get a lot harder.
Yeah, and they weren't ready for finals this year. The draw got them into finals, it's fair to say, when you look at who everyone played. Like I mentioned that for the men's comp, it's even more like that for the women's comp. But by getting into finals, you effectively get an extra season of footy into you because of the pressure that's coming. As you mentioned, the Sydney game pressure, the initial Carlton game, and then the Carlton final. Those 3 games are worth 3 to 4 games each for every single player because the pressure you're under to actually win them and you work the way through. So instead of having a really inexperienced team, suddenly their numbers say they're inexperienced, but the games they've played in make them
so it's
more
the old Kevin
next year.
Sheedy philosophy. Debut them on Anzac Day because it's worth 5 games.
Absolutely. And that was what it felt like on the weekend. They got a real lesson in what it takes. And they'll go into the preseason now knowing, okay, there's the gap. We need to get fitter. We need to get stronger. We need to get better with our ball handling. We need to make better decisions. So those things will drive the players from here. So that's really good. They've opened the opportunity to say, give us hard teams. They want to play against North Melbourne. They want to play against Adelaide and Melbourne and Brisbane and these sorts of teams because that's the only way you do get better. And if you do play against them and find out where you sit or play on a superstar and they teach you a lesson, or you find a way to actually beat them, you learn so much about how you will play. So it was a really important final series for them to make. They will take giant strides. They've got talent. Like, they've got some really talented players there. They just need more time. And their bigs are the ones that I look at and go, they've got so many players there who can take a contested mark or just win a contest. They can now build around them with players like Ella Roberts being a star. Then they should rise up the ladder quite quickly.
I think Adelaide, I'm just looking at the draw. So of the other winners, Adelaide, big winners over St Kilda at Norwood Oval. Brisbane, a tight win over Melbourne, 13 points. and then North Melbourne annihilated Hawthorn for the second week in a row. I was just looking at the fixtures for this week. Adelaide might want to lose to Melbourne because they'll go straight through to the preliminary final against North Melbourne if they win. They won't be playing in the grand final because at least you want to get some skin in the game.
Oh, you don't want to lose this week because you'll be out though.
Yeah, I know. Oh, you will.
It's not a qualifying for, but you don't. Right, you do not want to play North Melbourne.
Well,
they're paying $1.10 to win the flag.
Yeah, well, that's probably
$1.10.
Yeah, it's probably overs, mate. To be honest, I mean they are just such a good seed. I saw them once this year. You were at the same game. It was against Freo down at Freo Oval, and they just looked like a different team to everyone else. Yeah,
and AFLW has challenges all around the place with how to make it more competitive throughout and work out the fixturing and all those sorts of things. Finding a way to not allow one team to just be so much better than everybody else is a challenge.
You look at it the other way and say they're taking it up here. Everyone catches. So I think I think that's the way to go. I think they're evolving the game in their own way, and I think that's a good thing.
Well, yeah, they will force everyone else to improve. If they remain just far and away better than everybody else, that doesn't help the competition.
It'll become a problem, but you would expect teams to incrementally get closer to them. So,
and West Coast did say, we spoke to Michelle Cowan last week, that they looked at how North Melbourne played, what style of footy they used, what their strengths were, and they modelled their own game on that. So that you are right. Like Michelle Cowan said on this program, they modelled their game plan around what makes North Melbourne successful, and that helped them to rise up the ladder. So it has made them better. Everyone else has to find a way to get better, but we just can't have them winning 50 games in a row and just winning every single flag.
No, we can't. No. Well, good luck to them, I say. Cod, it's been great. Thanks for joining me on the show.
Always a pleasure. Spring edition, as you said. So we'll spring back into action next week.
Oh, we will.